Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you guys taking the time to tune in. Please make sure to like and share this video feed so that your friends can become our friends and join us in the fight for civil rights. We want to once again remind you to say we want to give a special thank you to our sponsor, Sacramento Black Rifle. Coffee is not coffee without a black rifle. In particular, a Sacramento Black Rifle. So thank you guys. Once again, FPC and Sac Black have been partners for years in the fight for our civil rights, and we are just so proud to have them as a sponsor of our show. Moving forward, once again, please remember like and share, like and share, like and share. Make sure your friends become our friends and join us once again as a part of the conversation. So let's talk. How shall we say? Let's talk firearms. Now, I get frustrated. I get frustrated sometimes because we always hear lawmakers, whenever I go to testify or whenever I hear stories about new bills that are being proposed, I always hear legislators and members of the media talk about, well, this bill will close a loophole in the law. Now, what I've come to find is that any law that any attempt to comply with the law or any law they don't like, they call a loophole. Any attempt to comply with the laws that they pass, they consider to be a loophole. Now, mind you, the people who write these laws, they don't like guns. They don't like people who like guns. And so they make almost no attempt to really get to know and understand the subject matter about which they are trying to cover. They make literally almost no attempt to try and help people to understand or to even have any idea as to what they're doing or what they're talking about. It is beyond frustrating because as we try to talk to them about the problems with their legislation, they really don't care to know. So what they do is they pass these laws and then they don't like the laws because, well, we find ways to comply with them. A great example would be the law that included the passage of the bullet button. Now, for those of you who are from outside of California, in the state of California for a number of years, firearms or semi-automatic rifles were required to have what's called a bullet button. Now, the bullet button is basically, it's largely this solid piece. Normally, the bullet button goes where the magazine releases. And you guys can see that right there. That's where the magazine release would normally be. Now, this is actually a solid piece. So when I say a solid piece, I mean it goes all the way through the other side. So you can't push on that outer part in order for in order to be able to release the magazine. But inside the magazine, there's this little thing in there. There's a button that's attached to a spring that requires a tool for you to be able to release. Now, when they passed this bill, they specifically said they wanted it to require so that you had to use a tool in order to release the magazine. Well, as they were developing the regulations for this, one of the arguments that was made was that, well, can a bullet or a round of ammunition be considered a tool? And the argument behind it was there was a firearm, a Russian-made firearm, that specifically was designed so that you could take it apart using nothing more than a round of ammunition. And round of ammunition was included in the tool, as a tool. And that's when Mr. Nance came up with the idea of the bullet button. Now, after the button, which basically means, as you see, the person is taking a round of ammunition. He's just putting in there, push the button, the magazine will be released. Now, after that, individuals came up with some other ideas on how to make it easier to comply with the law. One of the things that came up was the mag magnet, which is something that sits on top of this. Now, if you leave it on, it sits on top of that, and if you push it, it releases the magazine. Now, if you kept it on there, if you kept it on the firearm, that was considered a firearm part, and then, you're in violation of the law. because now you would be, or at least arguably, you'd be in violation of the law because it's no longer, in fact, a bullet button. Now, the other thing was someone came up with things with rings, with things that protruded on them so that you could once again release the magazine. In any case, the whole point that I'm making here is that people came up with ways in which to comply with the law. Nothing more, nothing less. They weren't saying we're not trying to get around the law. We're not trying to ignore the law. We're not trying to break the law. They simply want to comply with the law. But that wasn't the only area where this happened. There was also when it came to the new ban. So now, no bullet buttons are banned. So now, magazine, it has to be a fixed magazine. And the only way in which you can release the magazine is if, you have to take the firearm apart. Okay? When you say take the firearm apart, you have to disassemble the firearm. Well, what does that mean? Well, you have to disassemble the action. Okay, well, what's the action and how do you disassemble it? They said, okay, well, you have to separate the upper from the lower. Okay, so these are the rules of the game now. We have to separate the upper and the lower. So people came up with things like the AR maglock. As you see, here's an example. Here you have the lower, and then you have the upper, and they are separated. Now, there's this little pin right here that acts as a fulcrum that allows you to separate them. Open it up, release the magazine, close it up, bam. Well, guess what? Now you have people who are saying, well, wait a minute. That's a loophole in the law. They're breaking the law. Well, wait a minute. We asked you these questions. We specifically asked you, okay, so what do you want us to do? You want us to take apart the weapon. What do you mean by take apart the weapon? You need to separate the upper and the lower. Or you need to open the action. What does open the action mean? You need to separate the upper and the lower. We separated the upper and the lower. And yet now still they want to propose another bill to ban the same firearm. Why? Because they don't like the fact that we complied with the law. Now, even before this, there was when they originally banned the AR, one of the things they did was they looked at a gun and they said, that is a big, black, scary gun. We have to ban it. And the thing that made it scary was not just the fact that it was black, but it also had some scary features. Scary features including a forward pistol grip, an adjustable stock, a rear pistol grip, right? So these were things that they said, well, these things have got to go. If you remove those things, then you can still have a detachable magazine. So people came up with the idea of going what's called featureless. Now, there are a number of different ways in which to go featureless or firearm or stocks or whatnot that you can get that in order to go featureless. I opted to go with the Option Zero stock by my friend at Survivor Systems. Love this stock, by the way. I've shot it a number of times. Fantastic stock. I especially like it because it's got the extra magazine holder. I know that drives the anti-gunners crazy, knowing that now I have extra rounds. Anyway, but if you notice, once again, it is compliant with the law. No forward pistol grip. It's got the webbing, so it's got no rear pistol grip. Now, one of the things I like is those things that you'll see right there. They're called paddle shifters. I like those because they're big. It goes where the selector will go. It gives me a way in which to get some isometric tension with my thumb that I would normally get from being able to put my thumb around, but that allows me to get that isometric tension. I can adjust it because these are spacers. So I have to take this apart in order to adjust it to make it near or far, or closer or farther. Anyway, suffice it to say that this is how I've chosen once again to comply with the law. Well, now they're saying, well, but wait a minute, that's still an AR and that's not supposed to be. So we've got to ban that. Look, folks, here's the thing, and I'm just gonna be honest with you. You cannot get mad at other people because you are ignorant. You cannot get mad at us because you don't know what you're talking about. You pass laws based on your ignorance. And then because we are not ignorant, we figure out how to comply with the law in order to be law abiding. And then you get mad at us. Who's the stupid one? Who is the one who people should be getting mad at? Because see, eventually what's going to happen is this, and I already see it happening. The more you pass asinine laws, the more in which you pass laws that you don't know what you're talking about, and then people comply, and then you come back and you pass another law in order to close a loophole that was never a loophole in the first place. Eventually what's going to happen is people are just going to decide that they're just going to stop complying. They're just not going to comply with your stupid law. Your law that is based on the fact that you are completely and utterly ignorant. Because people are going to assume that, look, no matter what I do, no matter how I comply, no matter what steps I take to comply with their laws, they're just going to come back and they're going to punish me. And they're going to make it so that I cannot comply. So if I can't comply, if you're going to treat me like a criminal, well then, heck, I might as well just continue to be a criminal. Might as well make me one, huh? Why not? You're going to treat me like one anyway. And that is exactly what is going to happen. And people are going to refuse to comply with your stupid, asinine laws, your stupid laws which are based on ignorance, simply because you don't know what you're talking about. How about this? How about this? You promise not to pass any more laws in areas about which you are ignorant, and I will stop calling you ignorant idiots. How about that? Let's make it a deal. Deal? Deal. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a part in the fight for our civil rights. Remember, we got to use them or we're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.